Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Meditation with Seth Monk. It's nice to see all of you in there, in all of your different places. It's really nice to be back here. It's a nice setup in this nice place, talking with you. And I also hope that for you it's really nice to be here, that this feels good for you to sit down, to take this time once a week, or hopefully more times a week, to sit and to chat with me and to connect and to be present. And actually it's really you taking time for yourself. This is your time to be with yourself. This is your time to really drop in, to let everything kind of come to a place of rest, of stillness, of stop, of reset. Our whole day, it's a lot of moving. It's very active. There's a lot of doing. And when you meditate, it's really giving you this space to come to a place of stillness, kind of finding your foundation, your foundational state of being. Once we are in touch with our grounds and our foundation, we can build more solidly. A lot of us are going, and we keep building on a foundation that's moving. We're building on a foundation that's not stable. All of our mental constructs, our whole psyche, it's built off of all of this movement. Our whole day, it's built on this movement. So to be able to take this little bit of time for yourself just to stop, to be present, to rest, it gives you something more concrete and solid to build on, and you'll also find that the quality of your life, the quality of your day moving forward starts to transform, starts to shift, because it's coming from a more conscious, empowered, inspired place. That's also why things like retreats are so important. They give you a chance to get out of your daily life, to gain some perspective, to create a separate space, and then to look and examine that when you reapply yourself, you're kind of more aware of how you're doing it and what you're doing. I personally just came from a week at Tony Robbins. Those of you might know who he is. If you, on Netflix, check out I Am Not Your Guru, it's a documentary by him. He's known as being a motivational speaker, but I would say it's much, much more than that. It's really a life empowerer, I guess you could say. And it's different things as, clarifying your values. It's about realizing how changing your physiology, how really stepping into your body, moving, can start breaking you out of states. And kind of more than that, it's also checking in on your own limited values and your own limited belief systems. Checking out the things in yourself that are keeping you stuck and trapped and not able to move forward. So I'll talk a little bit about that stuff. And also somebody had asked me to talk about judgments for this talk, so I'm going to do that. Starting maybe just with the part about judgments, I'll say that I wouldn't call judgments bad. I think that there are helpful and healthy judgments, and then there are unhealthy and harmful judgments. If you are in bed and you feel like you should get up and do something, that's then a question of why and what do you want. If it's because you want to be the most successful athlete in the world, then that judgment that if you're lying in bed and it says, I should probably get up and do something, that could be exactly right. To achieve that goal, I should be following this path. However, if you haven't slept in 5 days and you have that voice that says you need to get out of bed and do something, you could say that's not really helpful right now. Actually, I need to rest to be able to perform at my best. So your judgments, first of all, need to align with some kind of a goal. If they have no direction, if they're directionless, it doesn't make a lot of sense. For instance, if you want to get back in shape and then you have that judgment that every day is like, oh, I should be going to the gym. The voice is right, I should be going to the gym, but that's if I want to get in shape. And if that judgment is in line with one of your wants, then why don't you shift that voice of I should go to the gym to I want to go to the gym. I want to achieve this goal, and this is the path to that goal, so this is what I want to do. So simply changing the should to a want is super helpful, and also takes off that weight of kind of feeling like something's wrong. I think that judgments also, on the other hand, I personally did start going to the gym more often recently. And as I'm doing that, I feel good about myself. And as I'm lifting weights, I'm saying, I feel unstoppable. I feel strong. I feel good. And these are positive, healthy, and helpful judgments because they're inspiring me to keep going, to move forward. And it's also doing something which is called neuroassociative conditioning. Yeah, so just take that word in for a second. Neuroassociative conditioning. So what neuroassociative conditioning is the way that our brain, the way that our mind associates to different behaviors in terms of reward or pain. So when I talk to you guys about meditation and I say it has to feel good for you, you have to be thankful to be here, it has to feel good, you want the breath to feel good, is because things that we associate to pleasure, we do more of, the mind wants, we're pulled into it. If you think about somebody smoking cigarettes, maybe smoking is harming their body. It's the #1 preventative cause of death in the country, right? Smoking. But if you're associating pleasure to the act of smoking, then it's hard to break that because you want it, you want it, you want it. And that's why they say to maybe break someone from the habit of smoking is you buy them like a carton of cigarettes and they have to smoke them all to start building up a connection to cigarettes that feels painful, that you have to make a new connection that says, actually, this does not feel good. I don't want this. This makes me feel sick. And when you build up a strong enough pain connection to something, you don't want it and you push it away. One of the problems in our meditation practice is that some of us have built up a pain connection to things like boredom. We've built up a pain connection to things like judging ourselves for not being productive, for not doing something, right? So for some of us, when we just stop and do nothing, we've built up a pain connection to that place of just being still and stopping. And so the mind is constantly trying to get away from it, right? And maybe we've built up a pleasure connection to being successful, right? To doing, to building, to being an active member of society, to being a good mom, a good dad, a good son, a good sibling, a good coworker, right? That we have to do something to feel good, right? So if you do nothing, our neutral state is pain. So you're always having to do something to feel good, to connect that pleasure to it. So part of my job here is to also help you guys shift that conditioning so that you start associating the meditation, you start associating these videos, you start associating your practice with something that feels pleasurable, right? That feels good, that this feels nice for you, right? And it doesn't have to be like, woohoo, nice. It doesn't have to be like you're celebrating, although if you want, every time you sit down and watch one of these videos, you could say yes, and then you could start the video. You could train yourself to start getting into that zone, to kind of create that state of this is good, I want this, this is nice. To train yourself, because ultimately what we're going to want to do in life is to start connecting that pleasure, that excitement, that celebration to things that are healthy for us, to things that we want to be doing, and things that are painful, things that are not helpful for us. We can start really seeing them for the painful things that they are. And this is actually a lot of what Buddhism is. The Buddha himself very often spoke about this, to see clearly what are the things that we're associating to pleasure, what are the things that we're associating to pain, and really being clear, is that the case, right? And there's some things that feel pleasurable now, but in the future are painful. Like sometimes people like to eat junk food. Feels really good now, but it's not going to feel good later. Your energy levels go down, you're going to have like a bit of a belly ache, you're going to feel tired, you're going to kind of maybe not feel good about yourself, maybe you gain weight or you get diabetes, that there's a lot of pain that could be associated with eating unhealthy. For myself, when I started eating healthier, when I was, maybe 20, I didn't really necessarily like the taste of all of these veggies for some reason, but the more that I felt how it affected my body, that it felt good to eat this, that I felt my energy levels going up, I started craving things that were good for me, right? I started connecting pleasure to those things that are good for me. So it wasn't just pleasure based on what I taste, which is, I would say, the lowest common denominator in eating, and that's why things like fast food and the sugar industry are so successful, is because a lot of people are very unconscious and they just eat whatever is pleasure on their tongue versus taking that kind of conscious step and says, what's actually good for this body? What makes this body feel good? What makes my energy levels feel good, right? Because if we start eating from a place of consciousness, conscious eating, decisive decision eating, then we'll start slowly associating foods that maybe before weren't so interesting to us for their taste, but we'll start craving them because we feel and we know they're good for us. Meditation is also the same way. If you feel good that you're sitting here to listen to this video, if you feel good that you're practicing meditation, yes, you're practicing meditation, good for you, right? If you feel good that you're doing this, your mind's going to want to do it more. Every time you sit down and watch the video to meditate, you're going to smile. And as you're meditating, it's going to feel good. Yeah, this is great. I'm happy that I'm doing this. Good for me, right? Pat on the back. I'm doing something good for myself. The only reason not to meditate would be somebody that says, I don't have enough time, which, as a lot of us know, is bullshit. If you really look at any given day, are you actually doing something every single second of your entire day? No way. Do you have 10 minutes somewhere to spare? Of course. Do you have an hour to spare? Of course. Yeah, it could mean waking up earlier. It could mean later. when everyone else is going to bed. But there's always actually time to kind of get things in there, to get things done, if they're a priority to you, right? If you really want them, if they matter, if they're meaningful, you'll figure it out. I know people that say to me, I don't have 10 minutes a day to meditate. And even just humoring them, I would say, what if somebody had a gun to the head of somebody in your family, and they said, unless you meditate for 10 minutes a day, I'm going to kill this person in your family. Do you think they'd have a chance to meditate 10 minutes a day? Of course. They'd find the time, they'd make it work. They'd probably wake up every morning and meditate for those 10 minutes to make sure that their family member was safe. Yeah? That if something takes a priority to you, you'll make it happen. Yeah, you'll attack it. And I think that's a really important thing to know, is that you are creating your relationship to this practice. And also really the way to get the benefits to this practice, it's by doing it. And also repetition creates mastery. You have to repeat a skill again and again and again to start understanding it, to start mastering it, to start really getting into it. Meditation is no different. Although it's good just to stop at any point and to rest and to drop in with yourself. If you really want to progress, if you really want to see the results, you need to have that repetition. You need to keep going through it again and again and again. And it has to come from a place of wanting it. You have to meditate because this feels good to you. This is something that you want to do. You know the results. You want to connect back into yourself. You want to have that stable foundation in your life to live the rest of your day from. You want to have that stable place of clarity and peace that you can kind of fall back on any time that you want. No matter what life throws at you, you have your own little island of peace that you can create whenever you want. Right? You can go on vacation from the world at the snap of a finger by just sitting down and breathing. Right, by pressing play on the video and saying, this is my time to drop in. So I would say that if you're doing something that's good for you, judge the hell out of it, but judge it good. Yeah? You're not doing your life justice if you're only judging the bad things, but you're not judging the good things. If you're going to judge, then fucking judge everything. Judge the good and judge the bad. Yeah? See the things that aren't working, but see the things that are working, and strengthen those connections. Judge yourself for being awesome. Yeah, judge yourself for all the good things you're doing, for the love you create in this life, right? Judge yourself for taking this time. Yeah, there's not a ton of people in this group. There's about 40 people in this group out of 8 billion people on this earth. Yeah, out of 8 billion people, how many people are taking time for themselves? How many people are meditating? How many people are consciously taking steps into their lives? Yeah, I'd say a very small fraction, a small percentage. So if you're going to judge yourself, also judge yourself for this. Yeah, because this is an amazing thing, and I'm really proud of all of you for doing this. But importantly, you need to be proud of yourself. Yeah, you need to really know that this is an amazing thing to sit down and meditate. And when I was on retreat, when I was in the monastery, I would just sit there and I would just smile, knowing that I was doing something so powerful and so beautiful and good for myself, for my energy, for my life, that as I was meditating, I felt good. And like I've said before, whenever there's pleasure in the mind gets pulled into that pleasure. Yeah? That the mind becomes present when it is pleasant. So if you can create that feeling of this is pleasant, I'm doing something good for me, I'm doing something I want to be doing, the mind will happily be there. The mind will be inspired, right? The mind will be curious, the mind will be drawn in. And this is really an important thing, these positive feelings, to bring these positive feelings into the meditation. That's actually the difference between someone who's like a novice and someone who's a master, is that for a master, the meditation feels so good. They do it as a priority in their life. And in the meditation, they feel so happy. I'm meditating now. Great. That the mind just kind of collects and it sinks in because it's so happy to be in the moment. The mind pulls back from the senses. It's not listening to anything. It's not seeing anything. It's not thinking anything. It wants to be there. It wants to soak all of this up. It wants to be fully present with all this because it feels so good and it's so happy. Yeah? If you think about the happiest times in your life, what is it about those times that makes them happy? You know, maybe there's a lot of love. Maybe there's a lot of connection in that moment. Maybe there's some kind of success or a victory. Yeah? Whatever it is that's drawn you into that moment, the fact is that all of your happiest moments, there's a similar quality, and that's that you were fully there for them. That when you're celebrating, the Patriots won the Super Bowl, I'm screaming and I'm jumping, and I'm fully present in there, and that made a mark on my mind. Awesome, Whenever something great happens, you're fully present with it, you're in it, it feels good, right? So bringing that feeling of presence and happiness together is super important. And that's also why I often talk about how meditation is not separate from your daily life, because of being present in this moment. If you're, associating the present moment with pain, if there's stuff in your life that you haven't worked through, if there's people you haven't forgiven, if you don't feel like you've set yourself on a good path in your life, if there's things that are unresolved or difficult, when you come into that present moment, you're going to feel pain, or even you'll be afraid to be fully present, because you know that there's this pain, there's these unresolved things and themes lurking underneath. And that's why a lot of people don't meditate, and they keep stimulating their mind, and they keep dulling their senses through alcohol, through TV, through scrolling in their phones, through whatever it is. They keep themselves distracted to not have to be present and not have to feel. But I tell you, and I promise you, that there is nothing more painful than living in a state of constantly running away from the present moment. No matter what happened to you, if somebody died, if you were abused, if there was some big traumatic thing that happened to you, right? No matter what's going on, that's not as bad as living every single moment in a state of perpetually running away from this moment. It's so much better to face that stuff, to go through that little bit of pain, of acceptance, of grieving, of whatever you have to go through, to really feel that stuff and make peace with it and release it and change your relationship to it, than to be trapped in a state of not being able to be present because you don't want to feel and confront that pain. Yeah, that's the definition of hell as far as I'm concerned, is being trapped in that split from the present moment. Because that split, that is the definition of suffering. Yeah, the split mind. Meditation, peace, it's connection, it's unity, it's bringing things together, it's oneness, it's wholeness, it's completeness. Right? When we talk about spirituality, when you're connected to everything, that feeling of completeness and wholeness and oneness that everyone talks about, that bliss of oneness and wholeness, right? That when the mind is one, when the mind is at a state of connection, at a state of unity, that's when the mind is its happiest. It feels safe. It feels really grounded. It feels present. It feels joyful. Yeah? Anytime things are split, right? Loneliness, split. Frustration, wanting something you're not getting, that's a split. Yeah, all of the most painful states of this life involve a split in the mind, a split in the perception, yeah, a this and a that. All of the best, most powerful, most beautiful, most uplifted states of the mind come from coming together, from combining, from unifying, from connecting. Yeah, love, you become one with that person, right? You feel one. This present moment feels so good. Yeah, even just looking at it in that sense, that every time you can come together with something, you're creating peace. Every time you're splitting apart from something, you're creating suffering. It'll start moving you into that direction of bringing things together. And that's even what I said, when you're meditating, even your senses, right? Usually we have our sight, our hearing, our body feeling, our smell, our taste, yeah, and then the mind, the sixth sense of the mind. All these different senses acting, activating, jumping around. When you meditate, you withdraw from the sense world, you retract all the senses, right? All that splitness of the mind starts dropping away, right? You're not looking anymore. You're not really listening. You're not smelling. You're not tasting. The body's not moving. Everything just comes to the mind. But then there's the thoughts and the feelings, more splitness, more movement, things that are trying to pull you and push you out of this moment, right? So you're inside of your mind, but everything's pushing and pulling you and breaking you away from this moment again and again and again. The more that you start enjoying this moment, the more you start making peace with this moment, the more you see it as a rest. And also it's the relationship we have to all that stuff, because if you have thoughts and you don't want to have thoughts in your meditation, you're enforcing that split. If a thought comes and you say, hey, I'm thinking, great. Yeah, even if you don't actually want to think, but if you change your relationship and say, great, a thought, you're again now creating connection. Yeah, you're overcoming that split of me and my thought, and you're pulling it in, right? Oh, I love that, try thinking more. Yeah, and usually it doesn't work. If you try to think more, oh, that felt so good, think more, you'll see that your mind goes blank, because it's like, what do you mean think more? Well, what am I supposed to think about? Yeah? Versus if you say, don't think about anything, mind, I want you to stop, the mind's like, oh, okay, I'll stop, but I don't know how to stop, how should I stop, why should I stop, what's going on? I feel like I'm in a panic, a survival mode kicks in, right? The mind starts running. Yeah, so the way that you relate to your mind, the way that you relate to what you want, what you don't want, what should or shouldn't be there, all of that stuff actually comes into play during the meditation. And because, again, you've separated from all of your senses, you're just in your mind, you're in your internal world, right? You stepped into a place of unity. And now you find how to, within that, create even more unity, create even more oneness, right? Create even more presence, where a space where everything belongs, I guess you could say. Allow everything that you find in that space to belong, and just rest. And this is why I tell you sometimes, don't even try to meditate. Yeah, just allow yourself to be there and to be happy, because even trying to meditate separates you. I'm here, there's this thing called meditation over here, and there's a distance between those two things that I'm trying to bridge by meditating, right? Why are you creating that separation? Why not just let go of trying to meditate? Yeah, I'm not trying to meditate, I'm just being here. And just being here is meditating, right? So shifting that relationship, just be here, right? Don't try to do, don't try to get, just be here and give yourself that positive judgment. I am just here and this is great and I'm so happy to be here and I'm fucking killing it by being here. This is great, good for me. Yeah, pat yourself on the back. This is awesome. I'm here, I'm thankful, this is good, and I'm gonna meditate and allow this to feel good. Allow myself just to revel in meanness and the goodness of just being here. Yeah, really use the systems of the mind, hijack the ego, hijack our psyche in a way that pours positivity into the mind to allow it to come together, to allow it to concentrate, to allow it to feel good. And I promise that if you do that enough, you're going to really go far in this practice. You're going to drop really deep. It's going to be amazing. It's going to become a staple in your life. And also you'll start being able to reverberate that into other sections of your life. Because you know, hey, I know what it feels like to feel good. I'm not feeling good in this section. And you'll start applying those same principles in different places. Yeah, I can say to you, honestly, like I swear for myself, that my life is the best that it's ever been. Yeah, and I did not start off that way. I did not start off, I was very depressed for a lot of my life. I was very unhappy. I had a lot of anxiety. I did not have a lot of friends. I had no sense of purpose. Yeah, that a lot of my life was very heavy, very dark, not in a good place. And slowly over time, I've shifted my life that when I look at all the different areas of my life, I could say that I'm pretty freaking happy with how my life looks in general. And that's not something that just happened by coincidence or luck or because like I'm a great person. It really happened because I started learning these principles, I started applying them, shifting them, and really being relentless in my own life. Really finding how can I live the life that makes me fully happy, level by level, piece by piece, layer by layer. And you stay with that mindset, and after a couple months, a couple years, you'll get there, yeah? Depending on where you're starting from, everyone's going to take more time, but start heading in that direction. And doing it in the meditation is really the first step because you're creating that space. This is what it feels like to be happy. This is what it feels like to be present. This is what it feels like when life feels good. This is what it feels like when I feel good in life. And from that place, then you look at your job or your relationships. Yeah, how do I feel this good in that place? Now I know what it feels like to be happy. Now I know what it feels like to be proud of myself. Yeah, now I know what it feels like to want to be alive, to want to be here. Now bring that feeling into your relationship. Now bring that feeling into your work. Now find your purpose with that. Yeah, using this basis that you create during the meditations, bring that out into your life and you'll see your entire life is changing and transforming because you know what it feels like and because you're not going to let yourself settle for anything else. Because like they say, life will give you what you settle for. Yeah. And that's the same in this practice of meditation. If you settle for, oh, it's enough just to sit here and not deal with anything, forget it. Yeah, but say to yourself, I'm here to be happy, to be fully present, to love this. Yeah, I'm here because it feels good. I'm here to really expand my mind in a beautiful, pleasant, blissful, joyous, and uplifting way. Then that's what you're going to get. And you're just going to keep practicing every day. You're going to repeat it. You're going to build up those new neural pathways that really understand how rich it feels to be present and to meditate. And the breath, which is something we've been breathing our entire lives since we were born, even when we're sleeping, this kind of easy, boring thing that we often just discard into the back of our perception somewhere, the breath can actually really become the vessel for all that bliss, all that pleasure. Yeah, because you're giving your mind something to rest on. You're feeling it. You're just relaxing and letting it be there. And the more that you give your presence to it, the more you'll feel, oh, it actually feels pleasurable to breathe. Oh, my breath actually feels peaceful. Oh, this actually feels nice. Oh, I actually want to breathe more. Oh, I want to be more present with this. Yeah, and just by becoming more present, more pleasant with the breath, the more that the mind wants it, the more the mind starts dropping in, collecting, coalescing around your breathing, right? The more the mind unifies, right? And that deep unification, eventually you don't even feel the breath. You just feel that pleasure of a unified mind. And that's eventually what sinks you into the deep meditation, is that pleasure of unification, that bliss of coming together fully, of everything finally being in one point, that wholeness that we've been searching for our whole lives. It all kind of comes together, and then it drops in. And that's really what we're going for. That's the direction, that's samadhi, that absorption of the mind into itself, okay? So that's what we're going to focus on the practice today. Good luck in your practice. We have some nice rain sounds happening in the background, which will help soothe you as I lead you in the meditation. So again, thank you for practicing, and thank yourself for practicing, yeah? This is a really great thing you're doing. So I'll see you in the meditation.